You are tuning into Agenda Awani with me, Naila Huda. And today on Agenda Awani, we wanted to talk about a crucial element in businesses and organizations, and that is human capital development. What kind of creative and innovative initiatives can organizations and businesses implement in the face of many contemporary challenges today? And solutions to such problems are what's at the center of the National Human Capital Conference, an exhibition, or the NHCCE, held by the Human Resource Development Corporation, or HRD Corp. So, joining me today on Agenda, I want you to talk about inclusive, sustainable strategies in human capital development today. Joining me in the studio, we have Roni Ambrose Cobley, Chief Strategy Officer, HRD Corp, and also Hetal Doshi, Chief Executive Officer of OSITE. Thank you so much, Hetal and Roni, for joining me today on Agenda. I want you to talk about human capital development, some of the interesting approaches, inclusivity, and innovation that we'd like to see today, because we're seeing a lot of contemporary challenges with economic challenges as well. So we're hearing a lot about HR 5.0, Roni, and this is an important topic, with businesses and organizations looking to more innovative strategies in human resources. Can you share a little bit about HR 5.0?
Sure. Thank you, Naila. First of all, thank you for having me and HRD Corp present here today. Well, the event for the past 2 years have given us one major indicator. Nothing is constant except change. So this is where we feel that the human resource practitioners or the HR fraternity needs to be all the time ready for what is coming. The HR 5.0 is actually the cushion to the movement of human resource practices in Malaysia. Is in line with what the Industrial Revolution has brought forward. Right. So when the Industrial Revolution come to the picture, it brought together with them, or it brought together with it the changes of technological advancement and what's not. So the question is, how best human capital development cope with all these changes? And COVID is one particular incident that have demonstrated to us that we need to move faster than where we were before. So HR 5.0 is actually to complement the movement of technological advancement in IR 4.0 to prepare human capital development.
Hetal, your thoughts? I mean, we're hearing a lot about technological advancements, but I believe what you do has a bit more of a psychological underlying it. So, how do you combine these different strategies now in human capital development?
What was interesting was while both of you were just chatting in the past 3 minutes, I don't know whether you realize you would have mentioned the word changes at least 13 times by now already. And so, really back in the day, when psychology first existed, it existed in military settings where you have war and you have to conquer something. And they found out that militaries could have strategies, but if they didn't have psychological strategies to win the war, you could only dream of winning. And the same thing with businesses these days, as they have business strategies and they want to transform and meet those demands. What we're really forgetting is that these are the people who are going through the impact of all of these 13 times that you've mentioned changes already. All of the fear that comes with it, all the anxiety, and sometimes it can be quite crippling. Because we need to do this very quickly, one of the biggest skills that we have found to be important to develop would be how do you transform chaos to opportunity in the shortest period of time, but also in the most inclusive manner, so that we don't lose each other along the way. It's very easy to break relationships and feel suffocated in that process if we do not make this inclusive enough.
So, Roni, if you could elaborate a little bit, what exactly is new in HR 5.0? Because, I mean, we tend to hear a lot about, rebranding of, old strategies, and it could just be very superficial, right, on the surface. But what substance does this bring with HR 5.0?
Well, there's a blend of where we are currently and the future that we are facing, be it from the generation that coming into the workforce, right, or the way we work at the same time. So this blends actually the dynamic of how and what the human resource practitioners will have to deal with as far as the future is concerned. So in one side of the equation, we have the new generation coming in, the generation that have their own core values. They grew up where loyalty is being defined differently from where we came from. And we do have at the other end of the spectrum where the dynamic of technology coming in, like AI and what's not. And we have this group in between who are already in the workforce, those who have come in quite some time ago, where they define loyalty differently, they define work processes differently, and they perceive technology differently, right? So all this dynamic needs to need to be handled. So among the topic that we are looking at is the future of job, how we culturalize change at the workplace, so that policies does not stick as it is for more than 2 or 3 years, for example. So these are the changes, or rather the way we need to manage changes in the organization.
Again, with the changes, right?
That is the 15th time that changes.
Yeah, gotta add 2 more to the toll now. Before we get into, I do want to talk about the conference, because I think that's where we, or the general public gets to learn more about HR 5.0. But before we move on to that, Hetal, I mean, we're talking about change, we're talking about challenges. What exactly are the current challenges in human capital development now? I mean, with the underlining issues of the COVID-19 pandemic still persisting to this day. I mean, the current challenges today, moving on from that.
Right. One of the interesting things or themes that came up during the pandemic was mental illness. From there, post-pandemic, they're moving on towards mental health. And now we're also looking at something called psychological risk. What is interesting is that it has gone from illness to individual mental health, but now they're looking at how organizations create their own drama. So while we say, people should be well and they should be healthy, but what if the drama is being created by the organization itself? We're looking at an international standard, not Hetal standard or not like Malaysia standard, international standard to measure the amount of drama that is in the workplace and the types of drama, the intensity, the pervasiveness, and the longevity of it as well. And it's really fun because it becomes very data-driven and everyone takes accountability of it rather than the individuals. In Malaysia right now, the level of risk, which is meant to be at 20% risk, so imagine if you send your kids to school, you don't want them to go through so much drama. It's supposed to be 20% at maximum, but in Malaysia, our current risk level is at 40%. And the level of well-being for people to cope with it should be at 80%, but it's only 60%. So imagine driving a car, there's like 60% well and 40% chance of breaking down. We probably would never drive a car like that. But people will normally say, it's okay, it's normal. But what is normal isn't okay. So one of the interesting things is to be able to pin down what are these risks, what are these drama, and what do we do about it.
So in the face of these, contemporary challenges, I mean, going back to HR 5.0, contemporary challenges need contemporary solutions. So, how did you come about approaching, introducing HR 5.0 at a national level, right? I want to talk about the National Human Capital Conference and Exhibition, the NHCCE 2022. How did that go?
This is where we bring the discussion about competency into the picture, knowing the dynamic that is happening, the challenges that we had after the pandemic and what's not. This is where how we need to come back to the pre-pandemic situation where we just know exactly what to do in whatever situation that we are facing. So this is where the new set of competency needs to be instilled as far as the human capital development is concerned. In fact, if I may quote Robert Walters' survey in 2023, they have cited that at least 60% of Malaysian employers have difficulties to sustain their top talent. And another 95% cited that they have difficulties to actually seek for the right people for the right job that they're having, should they do not shift to technological advancement and what's not. So at the same time, we all know that by shifting to the technological advancement, wherever you are in your business currently, by just moving, they will definitely require some form of skill enhancement. So this is where the HR 5.0 will be describing and talking from various angles, be it to address the concern and the needs of those organizations that has been in comfort zone for some times and shaken because of the situation that they are facing, or those startup companies that are looking into the right people that will move the organization moving forward. So this is where the HR 5.0 will be discussing and looking into.
I do want to get, Hetal, your thoughts on the conference as well and what you'll be sharing in the next session to come. But it's interesting that you mentioned about, adapting to technological changes and how exactly can companies do that while still having the trust and faith of, the human capital? I mean, talking about technological advancements, it'd be interesting to get the psychological perspective of this, right? How do companies get their people to move forward together in the face of so many rapid technological advancements and changes?
Yeah.
I mean, surely some will see that as a threat. Some will see that as, forceful change. How do you, sort of balance all this?
Yeah, when we look at the biggest risk in an organization, it's not necessarily technology. It is the speed at which we're able to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
It's just too fast. And our breathing mechanism is not able to cope with what some people say constant organizational transformation. Before you can even complete one, the next one is on, so on and so forth. What we try to liken it to as much as possible is an environmental thing that people are going through. Like, there's so much of pressure in the environment. So we try to make it as much as possible back to being a child in a playground. And as long as you have your friends around you and your friends make it really inviting to come to the party, then what happens is the narrative will automatically seep in. Rather than the CEO saying this is important or the next C-suite that's saying is important, it's like, let's just invite everyone to the party as often as we can and let everybody influence each other. But also do this in a way that feels a little bit safe, because right now everything feels like it's a bit of a threat. So really we'll use as much as possible the analogy of going back to play. When everything's going crazy, you don't mind going crazy with the people that you love. It just makes it more fun.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I just add on to that? Because Hetal mentioned about CEOs. So this is where I personally believe that in the uncertainty, in the world of uncertainties, leadership plays a very big role. So when we talk about setting up direction, making sure that things are moving forward the way it is as an organization, this is leaders. They have to walk the talk as well, talk while they are talking. The problem is, while we understand the concept of walking the talk, but when we walk, we don't talk. That is where the direction seems to be very vague and uncertain to the downline. So in this scenario, what is the role of the HR practitioners? How do we bridge in this situation? So we have an options whether the HR to play its role as merely an HR, or they play their role as a strategic partners in making sure that the whole team knows where is the leaders moving. So those are among the things that we're going to look into.
What has the feedback been like so far?
On the
I
feedback.
mean, when you're talking about these strategies as part of HR 5.0, I mean, there's a lot of new ideas here, being, a strategic partner as opposed to just being a leader. When you're going on ground, sharing about these ideas, particularly at the national conference, I mean, have you received any sort of feedback or thoughts from, leaders?
Sure. So we had our conference national level last year on 29th and 30th of November, and the response has been very overwhelmed. We wouldn't want to believe that it is because people are so eager to go out from MCO and what's not, that's why they're gathering, but rather we would believe that they really come because they really want to know what is going on and how best they should address this matter. So last year's conference was a very big success. Discussion has taken place. And from that discussion at the bigger arena, we received feedback that they would like to look into us bringing this same level of discussion at the regional level.
Right.
So because the regional, whether we like it or not, they have different set of issues, different challenges that they need to overcome.
Yeah. And talking about these regional sessions, what can we look forward to after this?
This is where... like, for example, we have started with Penang as our first regional level that we are looking at. And we are blessed in that sense because the entire Penang really came forward. We had a great support from the Chief Minister of Penang himself, the Penang government, as well as Penang Skills Development, who came forward to become our partners. And the numbers of comers has been very overwhelmed. And, of course, Penang being a dynamic states where manufacturing is the anchor of the economy, with its Bayan Lepas free trade zone and what's not, has been focusing the discussion within the parameter of manufacturers, technology and what's not. At the same time, we believe that if we bring the same discussion to other regions, where service could be the main anchor of the economy, the discussion will be in different level.
And so from the north, from Penang, you'll be moving to the very far east. Yes, to the Borneo region, I believe. And Hetal, you'll be a moderator and also a speaker in the upcoming NHCCE 2023 in the Borneo region on the 4th and the 5th July. Can you tell us a little bit about the regional series that we can expect in Sabah?
Yeah, I'm super looking forward to it because if you look at one of our primary economic drivers, it would be the oil, gas and energy sector. And we're very, very much in that space. One of the things that we would really love to be doing in that sector would be to, right now, a lot of our efforts would be within the KL region, but we want to look at our data. We want to look at the drama that everybody's going through, and we want to have ABCD. We want to be able to assess across the board, across the entire Malaysia, what are organizations going through, what are the major risk factors. Like in Kuala Lumpur area itself, the number one risk factor is tempo and pace. People are not able to cope at the speed at which things are going on. Is that the same thing that's going on there? Interesting facts over here. People love their jobs. People love their jobs. They find their supervisors very supportive, and they actually trust their management. And these are all very surprising, positive findings that I think the news often says, oh, we don't have enough support in the workplace, we don't trust management. It's not true at all.
And that's in KL?
Within the KL region, that is the case that we're finding. We want to scale this across the board in terms of assessments. We want to benchmark it across not only the oil, gas, energy sector, but also within different states, job levels, job types. The third thing would be consulting. When we speak to them, do they have, is it eventually maybe the same strategies? Because what we are finding across organizations in Kuala Lumpur, the strategies don't differ. It's always rallying people towards the same goal, walking to the talk and talking while you walk kind of a thing. It's the same strategy. It is not uniquely different in the past 20 years, but it's a very noisy landscape. But it's actually the same thing. You just really have to have clear goals. You have to build curiosity and make sure that it's a constructive way of going forward. So if it's the same thing here, is it the same thing there? And can we create some scalability across solutions that can help people transform and transcend very quickly? We also want to have probably like developmental programs that could be scaled and eventually evaluate the success and watch Malaysia as a whole develop on what we are using as an international standard called 45003, which is reducing any kind of drama, even though there are changes that are going on across Malaysia.
It's interesting that you posed the question about whether the KL case study can be applied to other areas and other regions, particularly the Borneo region. I mean, do you expect there to be a different sort of discourse or certain set of questions that could be different?
If I could, I would have to hold my tongue back a little bit, but in the past, because we've been doing a bit of work over there as well, and we've met a lot of Sabah and Sarawakians over here as well. I think that there will be a huge uniqueness. Their biggest asset and their biggest strength would be relationships. And I think with very strong relationships, and also interesting things like singing and dancing, people who sing more and dance more typically can rally people faster and better. So I'm really wondering maybe they do have a superior competitive edge because being united and having harmony is a massive strength for them. So I'm wondering whether they potentially have a massive edge over everyone else, because it's no longer about meeting business goals, it's about how you can meet them quickly. Yeah.
That's very interesting. Rory, perhaps you can share a little bit about why HRD Corp chose the Borneo region as one of the regional sessions.
Well, I would love to echo what Hetal has said. I mean, everything could be the same, the parameter, the topics could be the same, but what makes the difference is that the people, the culture, that will be the different angle that this remedy from the East Malaysia, I would say both Sabah and Sarawak will be bringing into the table. Of course, being states like Sabah and Sarawak where they are rich of natural resources, oil and gas and what's not, but they are also rich in terms of the culture, the behavior that actually propel them in the tourism industry. So this element could make a difference as far as the output of the conference is concerned. Right?
So what do you think we can perhaps look forward to in the Borneo session? A different set of discourse, perhaps? I
would say so. And interestingly to say, we can also look into how is technology the answer to all challenges that we are facing. Is it really technology going to replace human being, as what we always worry, is the AI going to overtake human being? Because as we know, technology can do a lot of technical things, but the human touch can only be done by human.
maybe you can share a little bit about what you'll be sharing about in the Borneo session. I mean, what do you think will be of interest to the audience there?
I think there is a renewed sense of hunger within these regions, and there's a lot of claiming power. And whenever we work with people who are hungry, willing and ready, it's always very exciting. So one of the things that we want to bring to them would be an understanding of where they are compared to the rest of Malaysia potentially, whether they're better, whether they're worse, which areas they can play to their strength. So again, coming back to assessments, data for everything. And the data that we're looking at is risk, so amount of risk within the organizations over there, how well people are coping with it, how safe spaces are to be able to speak up and challenge for innovation, and really allowing them the opportunity to assess themselves and compare themselves and benchmark and see what are the next steps for accelerated growth, but also in a way that resonates with their culture. Yeah.
Roni, moving forward, what exactly do you hope to get out of these many sessions of the NHCCE?
Right. So, collectively, what we are hoping is that we would be able to actually give the platform for each region to actually look at the same topic from different perspective. Because as what we all know, there's no one formula that can fit all sort of HR problem as far as moving forward is concerned. Now, learning from this, we would now be able to have a pool of approaches, be it from Penang inputs, Penang perspective, be it from East Malaysia perspective, perhaps later on in other states in the country, before we actually come together in the Klang Valley and discuss and bring this topic to the next level, because the next one in the national level is going to be a different angle of topics and different perspective. But nonetheless, all inputs will bring value as far as the enrichment of the information about HR approaches is concerned. Right?
And Hetal, personally, what do you hope to get out of promoting more discourse, more conversation, and more discussions, debates surrounding these issues? I mean, you previously said that the feedback has been great coming back from the COVID-19 pandemic, and that could be the fact that people are just looking forward to gather again, but that could also be this renewed sense of hunger, to get more information, to get new ideas. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think ultimately what we're driving to is the economy achieving its goals, people achieving their goals, businesses achieving their goals. And previously we used to look at it from an individual. Individuals are star performers in companies, but now we're looking at teams. So really my hope in a lot of our partnerships will be to find the best teams across Malaysia, the ones who are highest performing, but the ones who are also having the best culture to be able to achieve that. And diversity would create a lot of interesting insights and examples for us to play with and be inspired from as well. Yeah.
And lastly, just to wrap things up, Roni, your advice to those in the audience interested to join the NHCCE?
Sure. My final request is that do come together to this session. Are we going to be able to solve all HR-related problems? I'm not very sure. I don't think so. But one thing for sure is that the wisdom of the crowd will definitely bring more value rather than you are being alone. So do come together, join us in this 2-day session on the 4th and 5th of July. That will be held in Sabah International Convention Center. Like what the saying says, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, we go together.
And we hope to see that. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing a little bit about human capital development, sub-inclusive and sustainable ideas that we'd like to see moving forward in the area of human capital development. And we hope to see a lot of these ideas and this interesting discourse shared in the conference. Thanks so much once again, Roni Ambrose Gobli, Chief Strategy Officer of HRD Corp, and Hetal Doshi, Chief Executive Officer of OSIC, joining me today on Agenda Awani, talking a little bit about the national conference, the NHCCE. Good luck and all the best with that, and we'll hope to see you there. Thanks so much for joining me on Agenda Awani. That's all for this hour with me, Naila Huda. We'll see you again.